Greetings, Internet. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday from me and Segment. And welcome to this week's edition of Sunday Service with me, Sabrina Scott. If you guys are new to me and my work and my channel and everything that I do, I am a life coach. I do a lot of transformation work with people around everything. Divorce, moving, authenticity, confidence, healing from trauma, all of these fun things. And I also am a spiritual teacher and tarot reader, among many other things. So welcome if you're new here. Hello, nice to have you. And for today's topic, I'm just going to spitball a little bit and do a little bit of a stream of consciousness ramble. And for anyone who is viewing live, please do say hello in the chat to let me know who you are. Say hi. So today I want to talk about running towards the danger and why risk-taking and doing scary things in life is really, really important. And I just want to spitball about this a little bit. It's something that's been on my mind lately for personal reasons, which I will not be getting into 100%, but we'll kind of be touching on a little bit. So it's so interesting because I think a lot of people think that life is about being and staying comfortable, being and staying complacent, being kind of just at baseline. And in my experience, what tends to move us past a baseline experience of just being more or less fine, like 6.5 to 7 out of 10 all the time. All you guys, look at Segment. He is just chilling. How cute is that? Segment says hi. Anyway, I really feel like life is best lived and we get the best kind of results out of this beautiful, miraculous thing called existence when we are able to take risks and do things that are a little bit uncomfortable, which is why this episode of Sunday Service is called Run Towards the Danger. And that might sound really counterintuitive, right? Because we might think that if something is scary or we see it as risky or dangerous, then that means that we need to not do it. We need to run away from it and avoid. And this is going to be true around some things, right? I'm very anti-drug personally. I don't believe in that really. Oh, hello, Melissa. Nice to see you here. Thank you for being here. So obviously there's some things that are actually not good for us, not good for our health, like eating McDonald's every day. Maybe let's not do that. So there's some things that are risks that are genuinely bad risks. We should not be doing those things. We should not be, being addicted to stuff. We should not be eating McDonald's every day. We should not be, doing all of that shit. That to me is kind of obvious. But what I really want to talk about today is the importance of doing these things that are risky, not dangerous in that way of we're going to end up in jail or in prison or hospitalized or any of that, right? That's what I'm talking about. It's more things that feel emotionally dangerous, like it's a risk to maybe allow ourselves to take a gamble on a new relationship, to give ourselves the permission to explore what might it feel like to fall in love with somebody. Things like this. What might it feel like to release the art that we've been working on forever into the world? Release that book, release those series of paintings, to do the art show of all these paintings that, I don't know, no one has ever seen and we're a little bit afraid because it's vulnerable, or the poetry that we've been writing about something bad that happened to us, let's say, and sharing that can feel dangerous and risky. That is the kind of risk taking that I'm talking about here. That's the kind of danger that I'm talking about today, is these things that feel scary because they're so emotionally vulnerable, because they're so uncomfortable, because they ask a lot from us, and also they feel kind of high stakes as well, right? They require vulnerability, they require sincerity, they require us to put our ass on the line, so to speak. Falling in love, horrifying experience, very scary. It would probably be easier in the short term to just avoid that experience, right? To avoid being vulnerable with someone, to avoid giving ourselves the permission to let our feelings develop to a certain point where we do really fall for someone. That's a really vulnerable thing to do, right? We're putting ourselves in the position where someone has to see us fully, and we're also putting ourselves in a position where, oh my God, I could really be hurt if this goes wrong. However, in my opinion, it's one of the most beautiful and most important risks that any of us can take in this beautiful thing called life. And so when I'm talking about running towards the danger, this is the type of thing I'm talking about. Running towards the calculated, intentional risk of falling in love, sharing art, being adventurous, trying new things, being vulnerable, being sincere. And one of the things I've observed a lot just in society these days is a lot of people seem to kind of have like these walls around themselves. They're a little bit shielded by cynicism and irony and skepticism, and all of that. I just see that as like big defense mechanisms. All of that says to me is I'm scared. And that's okay to be scared. We're all scared. Like I'm scared a lot of the time too. Fair enough. We're all scared. And fear is a normal emotion. And I think sometimes fear in these circumstances, it is a little bit of like a flashing light reminding us and revealing to us that this could be an interesting growth experience. This could be an interesting thing to just experience in general. Like falling in love, crazy experience, making art and sharing it with the world and having that be seen and accepted and witnessed by other people is an incredibly profound experience I think everyone should have if it's an experience that they want to have, right? And so what I see online, and I've talked about this before, there's just so much cynicism, so much like hateration happening. There's a lot of people like talking shit about others who have taken the risk to be, let's say, vulnerable online, right? But it's, to me, this isn't just about being vulnerable online. It's about being vulnerable in our life, in our day-to-day experience, in our interactions with people that we care about, in our ways of living life, in the choices that we make. You know, do we decide to stay comfortable and just do the same shit we always do? Or are we going to go try a new experience, something we've never done before, that we could maybe look very silly, you know, doing something that feels risky? So personal example, I guess. Those of you who are on my Instagram will know a few weeks ago, I went paddleboarding. And as y'all know, I'm like a downtown city girl who like wears heels and like is all proper and whatever. And I had never fucking done this before. And it was, it felt like a fun adventure to do this because I had never challenged myself in this way. And I was with someone who I didn't want to look stupid in front of, but I just decided to go for it anyway. You know, if I look stupid, then whatever. And it was really vulnerable and really fun. And challenging ourselves to do stuff like that, I think, is a really important aspect of living life to the fullest and living life well. It's good and healthy, I think, to be constantly brushing against the edges of growth for ourselves. You know, what feels kind of risky, what feels kind of dangerous, what feels vulnerable. And again, I don't mean sketchy things. I mean wholesome things like, I don't know, going skydiving or doing axe throwing or signing up for a cooking class or, I don't know, taking a language class, a language that you think that you'd be terrible at, and just forcing yourself into situations that are vulnerable, that do require us to go out on a limb and maybe look a little bit silly for a moment. There is like a liveliness there. And I think the spark of life that I think all of us maybe want to connect with, whether we do or not is another story. But the spark of life, I think, happens the most when we are at that like growth edge. You know, we're experiencing something new. It's a little bit exhilarating. We're putting ourselves out there into a new experience where there is a vulnerability. And I do think vulnerability and sincerity is crucial to living a good life. If we just are living in a cage that we create for ourselves, any of my tarot people will know, 8 of Swords energy, okay? That type of experience, there is like a learned helplessness that people sometimes do. And then to relate it to the 2 of Swords, there is a self-protective mechanism that a lot of people also do. There's a fear of vulnerability. There's a fear of being seen by other people. And it's only really through opening ourselves up to that, being seen by others, that we really I think, open up to living a life that is fully authentic. Because what I've seen a lot of too is people living a double life, people living like a little secret life on the side, or feeling too freaked out and too scared to tell the person that they're with their secret fantasies about blah, 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 or their dream to start a business doing XYZ. And a lot of people are seeing it as too risky to share the most vulnerable parts of themselves with like their life partner. And for me, I'm like, let's not do that. Like, there's another way to be living. And hello for the folks who just logged on. Feel free to say hello. Just gonna sip some water. And so that's what I mean by risk taking and riskiness and danger. The danger of telling the people that we want to be close to, the people that we care about, you know, that risky secret fantasy that we have, or the dream that we have about whatever it happens to be. And taking that risk of, let's say, rejection, you know, the risk that someone might not understand, or that might change how someone sees us. It might. It absolutely might. And that's within their right, and that's within our right as well. However, I think it is so crucial to take these risks, right? Because there's an aspect of authenticity that I think is so necessary when we are talking about living a life that is meaningful. And I've done a podcast episode about this before, how authenticity is necessarily linked with loss. They're like this. You can't separate them, I don't think. Because when we're authentic, it is going to basically repel some people from us, but I think it will attract the right people. And sometimes there's a risk to that disclosure or revealing certain things about ourselves, about our desires, about our dreams, about our history, what we've been through, all of that. It can feel scary to share all of that stuff. And I have heard of a lot of folks feeling kind of lonely in that transition period, right? The transition period from, you know, putting on the veneer that they know is going to be accepted by everyone in their vicinity, the fake kind of like performative version of self, right? And of course, when that performative version of self changes to authentic self, of course, there's going to be a bit of a gap. Of course, there's going to be a little bit of a fall off. That's part of the sacrifice that I think many of us have to make when we are choosing to choose ourselves first and foremost. And I think that when everyone chooses themselves authentically and represents themselves authentically to the people they're interacting with, that is when the best relationships are possible. And it's always a risk to live that way. Always a risk to be sincere. You know, it's always a risk to share how we really feel, what we really have been through, what we really desire, where we really want to be going. And there is this beautiful thing in life around like personal evolution, transformation. We are always kind of in these cycles of death and rebirth of the self. At least I think we should be, which is part of what I love thinking about witchcraft and the seasons and the wheels of the year, and how all of the solstices and equinoxes kind of walk us through these processes of death and rebirth of the self, of constantly being in this process of letting go, you know, banishing what does not serve us. And that can often be aspects of self, bad behaviors, bad thoughts, limiting beliefs, like a tendency to overreact, a tendency to hyperfixate on the past or worry too much about the future, or a tendency to bite our tongue when we have something to say. These are all things that can be released. And we've got the wheel of the year that can help us with these death and rebirth cycles of self. And we also have, of course, the moon cycles, the new moon, the full moon, the waxing moon, the waning moon, all of these patterns and rhythms of life, death and rebirth, can help usher us through these processes. And if we don't want to do that on a monthly cycle, a monthly rhythm, we've also got that on the daily with the sun rising and setting, right? With the height of the sun aligning really nicely with the fullness of the moon, right? We can have this death and rebirth process, this banishing of what no longer serves us, and a welcoming in of what we want to summon into our life every single day, right? That's what I love about witchcraft and these rhythms of the seasons and the cycles and the universe and all of these fun things. And bringing that back to the theme of today, running towards the danger, moving towards the danger. I've seen this time and time again when people get what they've been dreaming of, when they get what they think they want. And this has happened to me too. We tend to panic, we freak out because this new thing that we've been dreaming about, whether it's love, business success, whatever it happens to be, like, I don't know, moving cities, moving countries, starting over, doing something drastic and big that is moving towards, let's say, a dream, something that we really want, falling in love, whatever it is, meeting our soulmate, whatever, right? Publishing our art, getting that success as an artist or a writer, whatever it happens to be. Oftentimes when we get that thing, or when we're close to it, when it's like graspable, a lot of times then people flip out and go into a panic of like, holy shit, is this really happening? And a lot of times people feel not quite ready for it, which makes sense. It's a completely like different way of vibrating. It's a different way of living. It's a different experience that is going to ask more of us, for us to be present in that new leveled up experience, whatever that happens to be, whether that's living authentically, whether that's, again, claiming our fantasies, claiming our identity, whatever that happens to be. Again, it can be anything. And I think what I see sometimes, like, people brush up against with that is this feeling that they don't deserve it, or they don't know how to interact in that kind of new experience that they have been saying in their mind that they have been wanting or desiring or dreaming about. And I've seen a lot of people like self-sabotage that experience, whatever it is, whether it's, again, like a book deal or a new love relationship that could be really good, or I don't know, a new job, or whatever happens to be. A lot of the time people self-sabotage because there's more fear around having what we think we want and what we probably actually deep in our soul do want. There's so much fear around that so many times people self-sabotage and then bring themselves back down to, let's say, a worse level than what they have been dreaming of, right? And so I think the struggle with a lot of folks, and like, again, this is true for myself too, is how do we react when we get close to what we think we want and what we've been dreaming about? And if we're true to our heart, it's like, that's what we authentically do want. But sometimes it's so scary to approach and to experience this thing that we've wanted for so long that we can then self-sabotage and like shoot ourselves in the foot and fuck it up, or just act crazy, or exit the situation. And then we go back to a kind of equilibrium, which we're not necessarily happy there in the equilibrium, but we're so used to it. We're so used to, let's say, having like mid relationships where we don't really care too much. Like, it's fine, it's whatever, but it doesn't light us on fire. That's a safer place to be. You know, that's a lot of, emotionally is a safer place to be, let's say, to kind of, just as an example, like date, I don't know, 3 people that we're kind of like, whatever about. But it means that we're not putting ourselves emotionally on the line. We're not emotionally vulnerable. We're not opening ourselves to any emotional risk or vulnerability at all when we do that. But if we go all in, let's say, with someone who seems like, oh shit, that could be a thing, that becomes a horrifying experience. But even though it's an experience that we want, because it means that we have something to lose. There's finally something at stake here. You know, there is finally part of our heart, let's say, that is at stake. And it's a lot easier to do things and to have experiences with people out in life when we don't really care either way, right? And so what I've noticed is a lot of people have this kind of like wall of being unbothered, not really caring. At some point, not caring became like cool. And what I would like to do in this live is talk about how it actually is really cool to care. It's cool to admit that you care about somebody, about your art, about yourself, about your future. And I think when people admit that they care, it means that we can be hurt and disappointed. And that can feel like a horrifying thing to open ourselves up to. However, I think it's also really crucial to just put ourselves on the line and be like, yeah, I care about you, I care about this, I care about fill in the blank, whatever that is for your situation. And we open ourselves up in that way. And yes, we open ourselves up to pain and disappointment and sadness and being hurt. And we also open ourselves up to feeling and experiencing the breadth of joy and excitement and happiness, and actually feeling seen and understood and accepted, in this example, by someone else. And that can be an incredibly powerful experience as well. But in order to get there, you have to run towards the danger, right? In order to get a similar experience of people reading your book and giving you the feedback of, oh my God, that really resonated with me. It felt like you were speaking exactly to my own experience. Thank you so much for writing that. In order to feel seen and heard and understood by others that way, you got to write the book. You got to release the book. You got to take that risk and run towards the danger to get that feeling of, oh my God, someone understands me, someone hears me, someone is witnessing me in the way that I want to be seen and heard and understood and witnessed. That's a risk, always. And of course, people have left me bad book reviews too. It's all good. I don't really particularly care. But every nice, heartfelt, meaningful message that I get from someone where, let's say, something I've written has touched them in some way, has helped them understand themselves better, has helped them heal their own relationship to their own experience. For me, that makes it all worth it. The risk of it all and the vulnerability of it all. And I don't, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I don't think that my books would be as meaningful to people as they are if I was not as vulnerable as I am. And this is particularly true for my new book, Body Magic, where it is very vulnerable, I would say. Hello, I was. It's the most vulnerable book I've ever written, and it will be released on Amazon soon, by the way. So keep your eyes open for that. But I've got some insane emails about it from people who've read it, basically saying like, holy shit, like you talking about your own trauma has helped me understand my own trauma better. And none of that would have happened if I didn't take that risk of writing in my little book, like, hey, this is what happened to me, and this is how I felt about it, and this is how I dealt with it. And that is a risk. And everyone listening to this might not necessarily be an artist or a writer or a public, creator in that way, but it doesn't really matter because all of this stuff applies to normal life. Even if no one knows who you are, even if you don't post any of your life on social media, it's still the same because it's about how do you live? How do you interact with other people? How do you share? Are you sincere? Are you vulnerable? Do you sometimes take down those walls? And like, don't get me wrong, we all do need some walls sometimes. It's actually healthy to have boundaries and walls at times, right? But I think part of the crucial aspect of what I'm trying to say today in this episode of Sunday Service is we have to be able to discern and to know when it's time to be like put the walls down and actually give other people the opportunity to see who we are deep down and to let people in to our hopes and dreams and pains and sadnesses and hopes and dreams and our experience, and to put the walls down enough to show other people, hey, this is me. I am soft and squishy too. I'm not just like, an armored person. Because it's really only when we do that we have this opportunity to experience the softness and vulnerability and transformation of life. It sounds very cheesy, I know. Awaz agrees. Just come up and say hello, Awaz. She's just staring at me, hanging out on the floor. Come on. Is she gonna hang out? I don't know. We'll find out. So a lot of this is about vulnerability. And if we are never vulnerable, we're never going to experience risk or danger or any of that. But I think there also is a risk in never being vulnerable, right? Because what we're doing when we're doing that is we are self-protective to the point of numbing ourselves to the beauty and bounty of experience, right? And I think life is, at its best, hello, sweetheart, it's about letting ourselves experience the whole breadth of everything. And there was an experience I had late last year, into early this year. And I remember talking to my therapist about it, and I was like, I am scared. This could blow up in my face and it could be horrible. And my therapist said something very wise. He was like, yeah, if it does, who cares? Who cares? Because you can handle it and it'll be fine. You've gone through way worse things. So why not just take the risk and have the experience? And he was so right. And I think a lot of people are afraid of being hurt and are afraid of hurting others to the extent that we actually, when we're afraid of hurting others, we sometimes take the agency away from other people to decide what their own experience is going to be, right? And one thing I've learned too is that being hurt is like not the fucking end of the world, which sounds maybe controversial. It's not a big deal. Like it can suck at the time, don't get me wrong, but it also means that we're alive. And how amazing is that? Being hurt means that we were brave enough to care about somebody or something. And I think that's actually kind of a win. Not to say that I want to be hurt, I don't. But I think reframing how do we experience hurt can be a good thing to do. If we frame it as, oh my God, I could get hurt, I want to avoid anything I could get hurt, then we're going to kind of like numb ourselves from the experience of life. But if we frame hurt as it's a part of life and it's going to happen whether I want it to or not, and it means that I'm alive, and it means I cared, and it means I was brave, and it means I tried something, and it means I took a risk, and I can get through it. If we frame hurt like that, we're going to live a life that is a lot more broad, a lot more experience, a lot more. There's going to be more of an abundance of experience and sensation that we're able to access if we frame hurt as something that is really not that scary. And I think it's actually scarier to imagine a life where we don't live fully enough to even experience any hurt at all. So we can also think about failure. We can think about hurt. We can think about failure. I think a lot of people don't try things because they think and tell themselves, what if it doesn't work out? And so they just don't try. Again, whether it's a relationship, whether that is a job application, whether that is, I don't know, applying for citizenship somewhere random, whether it is making art, whether it is trying to have a business, whatever it happens to be. And a lot of people don't try things because what if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? And I think that thought, what if it doesn't work out, has robbed the world of so many amazing relationships, amazing art, amazing businesses. And it's robbed people of experiencing life to the fullest. And I think failure is inevitable. I think if you haven't failed, you haven't lived. It's kind of my experience. And if you haven't failed a lot, then you haven't tried as hard as you could have. You haven't made yourself uncomfortable. You haven't put yourself in growth-oriented enough spaces. Because if you only ever do what you know you're going to succeed at, what are you really learning? Probably not a ton. And so when we do stretch ourselves in love, in art, in honesty, hello, sweetie, in whatever this looks like for you, because I think it is going to be something different for everyone. Everyone's going to have like a different like area where this is going to hit them more so than others. But if we haven't opened ourselves up enough to this experience of failure, again, I think it means that we're just playing it safe in our life and we're not really taking any risks, taking the risk to even just look stupid every now and then. Like I was like paddleboarding. I'm sure I looked kind of dumb for like a little bit when I was doing that, right? I was kind of wobbly. Like I didn't really know what I was doing. Like I was using the thing wrong. I tried to stand. It didn't really work. Okay. And all of that, we need to see experiences like that as fun, as not embarrassing, but as exciting, as a possibility, as growth, as imagination, as wonder. Not as like, oh my God, I'm spiraling. I look very silly right now. I bet this person I'm with is going to think I'm so incompetent, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not about that at all. It's about how comfortable are you with discomfort? How comfortable are you in new situations? And can you subject yourself to that uncertainty? How do you deal with that? You know, doing something, let's say like paddleboarding that I've never done, you know, as opposed to, I don't know, going to the gym. I know how to do that. I know I'm not going to look stupid at the gym, you know, but that would be safe. That would be a safe thing. I wouldn't probably have learned anything, you know, but opening up to this different type of experience, I get to learn a lot and have a new experience of life. And isn't that fun? And I think it's so crucial to expose ourselves to situations like this more often than not. And this isn't just about an obsession with novelty or boredom with like same. It's not about that at all. It's more about a self-knowledge around what are your growth edges? What scares you? And why are you not doing that thing? Because I feel like, you know, my experience in my own life and coaching my clients and all of that, one of the things I've noticed is that a lot of the time what people are afraid of the most is what they secretly really want to do. Whether that is, you know, being afraid of falling in love, and yet secretly really wanting that like soulmate level vibe in a relationship, whether it is a fear of public speaking, but secretly really wishing that they could perform poetry in public, like at live events or whatever. And I think the fear, like what feels really scary, teaches us a lot. It gives us a data point around where do we have room to grow? What do we need to experience, perhaps, in order to really access and unlock these next levels of self? Because often our fears and what we're like kind of paralyzed around doing, it often clogs up the energy in our system. So, personal example. So part of the reason why my PhD has taken so long to write, and I finally did finish writing it, so yay for me. But part of the reason why it took me so long to write, and I wrote pretty much the entire thing this year, was that I was afraid it wasn't going to be academic enough. And I was afraid that my committee was going to think that it needed to be fully rewritten. And yeah, it wasn't academic enough. That was my fear. And I was afraid that I was going to be putting in all this work and that they would reject it. And then I would have to drop out of my PhD. And how embarrassing would that be? Everyone would know that I'm a sham and blah, 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 blah. Of course, I'm not a sham, but it's like, these are the silly fears. These are the silly thoughts, right? And then, of course, what happened when I actually fucking sat down to write the thing? So I did all summer. Then I handed it in to people and they were like, this is great. We love it. No edits. And so my fear around not being academic enough held me back for multiple years writing this thing. And then once I finally actually wrote it, handed it into the powers, my entire committee was basically like, this is awesome. Like, we don't have any real feedback other than that it's awesome. And so think about that. Like, how many years did this fear of not being academic enough and being rejected hold me back? Many years. And on one hand, there's that truth, but I'm also very happy with the timeline that I've experienced with the PhD. Like, I think actually everything worked out in exactly the perfect timing it needed to. So I'm not judging myself around that. But just to share that experience of, you know, what does the fear tell us? The fear in that example told me, if you write this, it's going to be rejected. It's not going to be academic enough because you're like a weirdo, artsy, witchy lady. What the fuck are you doing in a science department? They're not really going to understand what you're saying. You're not going to be using enough quotes, blah, blah, blah. That was my fear holding me back. That's why I couldn't write the PhD for multiple years. Okay. And once I finally fucking made myself do it and, you know, lit some candles, did my little ritual, and I was like, within 1 month, this fucking thing is going to be written. And I did it, you know. And then once I actually handed it in, which I was freaked the fuck out about. And like, this was also me running towards the danger, right? Writing it is running towards the danger. And then actually sending it to my committee and my supervisors, running towards the danger. And I had to sit with that uncertainty for a few weeks of the danger. Are they going to tell me that I suck? Are they going to tell me that my writing makes no sense? Are they going to tell me that I'm not using enough theory? Are they going to tell me blah, 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 blah? And guess what? None of those fears ever fucking came true. No one said any of that. What they said was, this is amazing. This is very powerful. This is, all these wonderful compliments. No edits. The edits were like, take out the letter A over here. And I think you used the word the too many times in this sentence. It was stuff like that. And it was a really instructive experience for me because even though I teach this stuff, like it showed like, what are my growth edges, right? How did I still let that fear, the fear of the danger, hold me back from creating this important work and hitting this important milestone, like in my own life, And I think oftentimes when we run towards the danger and we do the scary thing, when we put ourselves out there and then we let it go to the universe. In my case, it was, my supervisors and my PhD team, like letting it go, being with the danger, sitting with the danger, and letting it happen. And if they had given me feedback of like, hey, this isn't academic enough, I could have just added more quotes and made those edits. But I didn't actually end up needing to do that. It was all like crap in my brain, being just afraid of being rejected, afraid of not being, cookie cutter enough, because my project is very not cookie cutter. It's very atypical. It's very creative. It's very, I'm doing something very new with this. And I knew that going in, and that I knew that was a risk, right? I knew that was a dangerous choice, but I also knew that for me, that was the authentic choice, right? And so I share this story, like not to brag at all, more just to show that often what we think is going to happen when we're vulnerable, what we think is going to happen when we're authentic, what we think is going to happen when we run towards the danger is not what actually happens. We don't explode. We often aren't going to get rejected. We aren't going to be told that we're not good enough. Usually what's going to happen is someone else is going to meet us in our vulnerability with their own vulnerability, and how powerful is that? And I'm not going to share like too much about this, but one of the amazing things I've experienced with my PhD project and the extent to which I've been vulnerable in my project, like some of my team members at the academy, the professors that have been working with me on this, like have also shared their own vulnerability privately about like, what it brings up for them. And I never would have had the blessing of that experience of like true heart-to-heart connection if I hadn't taken that first leap, that first risk to be the first person to be vulnerable, right? Because I know they wouldn't have done it, and nor should they have. But because I decided to be risky and run towards the danger and be vulnerable in my academic work, which is not really a place that most people are ever vulnerable, it gave my professors the opportunity to also be vulnerable and to share their humanity and to share their experience and to share some of their heart and their embodied healing process with me, which is really amazing. Honestly, like it's powerful. Like it's brought me to tears multiple times, and like just in an emotionally moving kind of way. And I wouldn't have experienced that if I had played it safe. If I had done the project that I would have known was going to be less risky, emotionally, academically, etc. If I had just done a typical PhD project, like, whatever, I wouldn't have had this emotional experience of meeting myself more fully. I would not have been able to inspire some of these feelings in others who have read the work. And I wouldn't have had those experiences of connectedness, And I think this is just one example of like a PhD project. Like in the scheme of things, it's just one small thing. But if we look at it more broadly, like this is applicable to everyone in their life around whatever it happens to be. And I'm using this example, obviously, because it's something I just went through. But we also can see this in so many other things. And sometimes we do have to be the person to be vulnerable first. We do have to be the first person to like change the culture in our workplace or our family and our friend group, whatever it is. Like some of us our path is as such where we have to be the leader in vulnerability, in embracing risk, in embracing sincerity, in embracing authenticity, in embracing like open communication. Sometimes we are the ones that have to go first. And sometimes that does go like in a complicated way. And it's not always sunshine and roses. But I think when we are able to sit with risk, sit with vulnerability, sit with our own inspired presence, whatever that evokes in us. For me, it was a PhD project. It's been art. It's been the way that I live life, the way that I interact with other people in my personal life. That it does create a model for other people to meet us in that way. Because if we're going to be living life with this like cage around us, we're probably going to be interacting with other people who also have a cage around them as well, or who are also living life kind of at half-mast a bit. I don't know if that metaphor makes sense, but living life kind of like half-assed, we could say. But if we live life with our full ass, taking the risks, being vulnerable, caring out loud, chances are we're going to vibrate towards other people who also are able to care out loud, who also are able to, like put our walls down, click the button, and like allow ourselves to be less self-protective. I'm not saying that self-protection is a bad thing at all. I think it's incredibly important for everyone to know how to do that and when to do that. Huge. And teaching boundaries is a really important thing to me. A lot of people need more boundaries and better boundaries. That being said, I think sometimes we can be over boundaried, and like sometimes people go this extreme from having no boundaries. They flip-flop to the complete other side, and then they have like so many boundaries that no one can ever get to know them. And that's not really the solution either, right? The solution, I think, is to be discerning around our boundaries and who is safe to share around and who is safe to not share around, or who is not safe to share around. And using the PhD example again, I really had no evidence to think that my team would be assholes to me. I had no reason to think that. I know they're rigorous and that they would have told me if it was not academic enough. But really, a lot of my fears were kind of misplaced because these are all good people that I took a long time to choose. So I know they're good people for that reason alone. And I think some of us have to do a better job looking at the evidence before us. And the evidence often shows us that our fears are unfounded. And this can be true even at the beginning of a relationship, right? When we are falling for somebody, let's say, and we might be like in a paranoia spiral of like, oh my God, does this person like me? Like, are they faking it? Like, what's happening? And we can just have these spirals of like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Or we can look at the evidence of, okay, how does this person treat me? How are they showing up for me? Like, and we can actually look at that list and say, oh, of course, everything is fine. Why am I going into a spiral? It's the fear. And the fear often is a way of trying to keep ourselves safe, right? And so our bodies and our minds they're really interested in keeping us safe. They're really interested in self-protection, which is wonderful. We need that, right? Because so many of us actually really need to up our self-protection mechanisms. But what's interesting is that a lot of folks, especially with trauma, we learn in childhood or whatever that safe people are dangerous, and we learn that dangerous people are safe. And so it's like the wires get fucked up. And so we have to like retrain ourselves on what is actually safe, right? And to open ourselves to these experiences and to know when these kind of like embodied mechanisms of trying to keep us safe are actually keeping us small and too comfortable rather than opening us up to the risk of growth. Because it can feel like, like a life or death experience to fall in love, to let ourselves, switch careers, move across the country, move to a different country where we don't speak the language, to try something totally new, to, even start a family. Maybe that is going to feel really emotionally heavy and like, life or deathy for some people too. But I think part of it is to learn to soothe our nervous system and to calm ourselves down and realize, hey, I'm not dying. No one's dying. I am just taking a risk of falling in love, making art, taking a sewing class, taking a Spanish class, moving to Bermuda. I don't fucking know. But oftentimes our bodies are so overcompensating in a way, trying to keep us safe. And sometimes that's not useful. So I'm just noticing there's something in the chat that I want to read. So Melissa's saying, it resonates so much with my life too. I'm starting school in a week after working in the same company for 15 years. It's fucking terrifying, but I know this is right. Oh my God. This is exactly the type of thing I'm talking about, Melissa. Thank you so much for saying that and sharing that and putting it in the chat. It's like, this is exactly the fucking exact thing I'm talking about. Because like 15 years, that's a long time to be in kind of the same cycle, the same routine. And I'm not saying it was the same the entire time, but even just to be with the same company, like there's a similar energy with that when you're there for so long. And it can feel absolutely fucking horrifying to go back to school, to retrain, to even switch companies, to switch roles, to just make any kind of change after such a long time. That is going to feel completely seismic. It is going to feel like, what the fuck am I doing? Am I going to die? And that is what our body is basically going through when we're making these big changes. The body is in a panic because it's a new experience. The body and the brain hasn't learned yet that this leap is a safe leap to make. And it's going to be cool. And let's say that you start school and then you realize, you know what, I don't love this program as much as I thought I was going to. You can always fucking change programs. You're going to be fine no matter what. And let's see, Melissa saying going from the travel industry to construction. So it is nerve-wracking. Oh my God, that's so exciting. So actually, are you comfortable sharing like what you're going back to school for and like what kind of construction? Completely different area of work, but you're pumped. I love that. And it is scary, right? It's like, this is exactly the type of thing I'm talking about. And I feel like a lot of people are going through this right now, which is interesting because I feel like eclipse season is around the corner. So a lot of us are making these big changes. Plumbing and heating, good for you. That's amazing. And it's, yeah, very different type of work. Like it's going to be like the trades are so much more like physical and kind of tactile, which, you know, there's a completely different way of relating to your body with that as well, which I think is so cool. I would love to know like what the inspo was for the change. It's just so cool. And I think a lot of people, they mistake the embodied reaction, like the embodied freak out, like I want to keep myself safe reaction. They misunderstand and misread that as like a sign that they shouldn't do the leap. You know what I mean? And I think we just have to all practice like calming ourselves, you know, when we have that type of experience, the kind of like freak out of like, oh my God, should I do this? And just remind ourselves, no, this is just my body freaking out. This is just my body trying to keep me safe. This is just my body trying to keep me comfortable. And, you know, just to be like, all right, I'm just going to breathe through this. I'm just going to keep going. It's huge. Melissa says there's a weird stigma around plumbing, and I'm a bit ashamed to say, but I thought construction work was for dumb people. What changed your mind? Because it's true, like there is that stigma, but I've known people in the trades and they're like so fucking awesome, actually. And then you met a guy who was extremely highly educated and smart, and he poured concrete. I love it. Yeah, as y'all probably know who have been here for a while, the last serious relationship I was in when was that? Like 2020. He was in construction, and that he was, you know, smart as well. And like that experience too kind of opened my eyes a bit too. Like, oh, people in the trades are actually really awesome and like really smart. And so there is a lot of silly stereotypes that are just not really based on reality. And they have this really cool understanding of like the physical world that a lot of people with like desk office jobs like just don't have. Like they just don't understand. And so like, you know, God bless the construction people and the trades people, because they do have this really embodied understanding of the world that I think a lot of people are so divorced from these days. Like I really respect it. And Melissa, I think it's really cool too that like, you know, you made that transition process for yourself around, you know, maybe judging something or not understanding something to then kind of getting curious and being like, oh, maybe this could be for me. Maybe this is something that resonates. Maybe this is something that I could do. Like, I think that's actually really awesome. And I don't know. I think that's fucking cool. So good for you. And so actually, Melissa, let me ask you if you're comfortable to share, like, how did you, you know, push down those like freaked out feelings of like, oh my God, the panic that is going to happen whenever we make a big leap. Our body is going to try to keep us safe and in survival mode. So often the body is going to like have these strong reactions that tell us not to do this leap. So I'm curious, like, what worked for you to kind of like calm your shit down? So I feel like it is going to be a little bit different for everyone. Oh, Black Cat's saying, interesting conversation. You're enjoying the cat just chilling in the background like nothing is happening. Yep, he's just hanging out. Zach Matt, are you hanging? He's over it. Yeah, he's chilling. And then there's another cat chilling on the table that the laptop is perched on. And there's another cat over yonder. All the cats are in the living room. Yeah, nice to see you here, Black Cats. It's been a minute. And I just think this is such an important thing to talk about, right? Because like I see a lot of people, especially into middle age. I don't even know what counts as middle age. Let's say like 30s, 40s. A lot of people are deciding like, what do they want? Do they want to get married? Do they want a serious relationship? Do they want kids? Do they want to do a career pivot? Do they want to move somewhere completely different? And because, we've got more self-knowledge, we've got more resources. Let's see, Melissa says, you just ignore it. I love it because you've looked into this. You've spoken to many blue-collared women. You've done some plumbing with your dad. Fixing shit just makes you happy. I love that. And there's also, I would say, like a healthy masculine energy with that too. And I don't mean that in a bad way at all. Like we all have these energies within us, like no matter what we are, man or woman or whatever, we all have masculine energy, we all have feminine energy. And I think we all of us, women included, need some healthy masculine energy of like fixing stuff, problem solving. Like that is a really important thing to cultivate, I think, for everyone, no matter what your kind of situation is. And Melissa's saying you'll be 40 next March. The age was also in your mind. Yeah. And I think it makes sense, like to have this moment to pivot if you realize, I think we all kind of hit this point where it's like, none of us are getting any younger, which isn't a scarcity thing. It's just facts. And so if we're not getting any younger, how are we going to spend our time as we get older? What makes us happy? What would be more fulfilling, either love-wise, romance, stuff like this, or career? Where do we want to be? Family-wise, location-wise, all of the things, So I think that's really cool, Melissa. This is exactly the fucking exact thing I'm talking about. So thank you for giving everyone like just such a concrete example of like exactly what I'm trying to explain. And let's see, Black Cats is saying, I'm 41, single male, and life has changed a lot, and I know it's only going to change more. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think what I love about this topic today, running towards the danger, I think especially as we approach our 40s, and like I'm 35, so it's like 40 is coming. It's coming, and I'm fine with that. But like as we get older, I think what I've noticed is like 30 to 40, like, maybe 30 to 45, whatever, this kind of like gap of ages, I noticed that like people either stay youthful and vibrant and joyful, and they have like more energy than ever, they look better than ever, or they like age and they look way older than they are. They look more like haggard. Their energy is like sad, and I think the difference I've noticed, between these two different types of people is, do these people like run towards the danger and make these changes and act from bravery, or do they just kind of like push it all under the rug and deny, their sexuality? Maybe they're secretly gay or bisexual, and maybe they just want to pretend that that's not the case, or maybe it's like a gender presentation thing, or maybe it's a career thing, or maybe they're a city person, but they want to live in the middle of nowhere, or maybe they've lived in a small town their whole life and they secretly have been dreaming about skyscrapers and being in New York City or whatever. And what I find is the people who are vibrant into older age are the people who have made these big leaps of running towards the danger, doing the scary thing, doing the thing that makes us kind of panic, and the people who just end up grizzled and like, saggy and sad and low energy, it's because they have not taken these scary leaps of running towards the danger. They stay in the safe place, and then their vitality and their life force diminishes. I've noticed this. Let's see, Black Cats is saying, I think the older you get, the more you need to do some of the things you're talking about. The older you get, the more you get stuck in your own ways. Sometimes I want to keep the need to feel 21 again. Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, as you're getting older, as we're all getting older, like doing the silly stuff becomes even more and more important, because you're right. Like we do all get caught in our habits. We do all get caught in like whatever it is, like our patterns, our comfort zone. We eat at the same restaurant all the time. We make the same food for dinner every night. We don't explore. We don't try something new. We don't have a new experience, because the fact of the matter is, when we have a new experience, our brain is evolving. Our perception of life, our perception of ourself gets to evolve when we get to interface with a new experience, meeting new people, getting out there. And even if we hate the experience, maybe we go out, meet new people, don't like anybody, at least that is going to teach us something about ourselves. It's going to give us like new thoughts, new experiences, new things that we get to kind of bounce up against and see, okay, who am I? What does this mean about who I am? What does this mean about where I'm going? Maybe we meet someone that, is doing something that we thought that we could never do. But, oh, wow, this person, just as an example, let's say this person is starting a business in their 60s. Maybe that gives you, if you're someone in your 60s who always want to start a business, maybe that gives you the inspiration of like, oh, I'm not dead yet. I could do it. They're doing it. Why can't I do it? And so these experiences are just so crucial, and Black Cats, it's like, what would you need to do to feel like you're 21 again? Like, would it be like, I don't know, going dancing, going ziplining, going on a solo trip to some random country? Like, what would it be, to help you feel that vibrancy? And for me, this isn't necessarily about like age as a number. It's more about, this is going to sound fucking so hippie, but like age as an energy, like the way of experiencing life, age not as number, but as vitality, like life force energy. And I think we've all met people of varying ages that have like a very different, like vital life force. Like, and I'm not talking about, physical capability, because someone can be, let's say, physically disabled and like not really able to physically move, but still have like a really deep connection to vibrancy and life force energy, which is what keeps us like going and motivated and just living this beautiful thing called life. So what can we all do to cultivate that more? And I think part of the answer for me is moving towards the danger, doing the scary stuff, doing what scares you, embracing the risk of being vulnerable and trying something and looking silly and whatever it happens to be, switching careers, moving, like whatever it is. And I see a lot of people who are living life in this completely like risk-free way, but I actually feel like that's the most risky way to live, because then you don't have any experiences. You end up kind of like calcified, like you end up kind of like stuck. And then the longer you wait to make a move or try something, the harder it is to do, So actually, the more we move, the more we take risks, the more we run towards scary stuff, the easier it is to do. I do feel significantly unblocked since I did the PhD writing and actually submitted it, and then it was accepted, and it's like, yay. I think the act of writing it, even though I was scared to write it, the act of submitting it, even though I was scared to submit it, has unlocked and unblocked a lot of my creativity. I'm feeling so much more creative now than I was, 8 months ago, because I got this off my chest. I got this out of my being. I've got this out of my mind. I've translated all of these thoughts into writing, and now I sent it and it was like all fine. And so now like my throat chakra is unblocked, and my sacral, like creative center, is also unblocked, because I finally was able to do this. And so when we don't do that, we are blocking up our energy centers, And let's see, Black Cats is saying, let's see. Melissa's saying you lived risk-free for too long and effectively felt death inside. Exactly. And it's funny because people often think that leading a life where you're embracing these risks, these vulnerabilities, that's going to be causing the death inside. But it's actually the opposite. It's like when we avoid the risk, when we avoid the taking chances and, living life courageously, when we avoid that, that's actually when the death inside happens, as you're explaining. Let's see, Black Cats is saying, you think a lot of relationship problems come from people getting stuck in their ways and doing the same things all the time. Eventually people want or need to do something different. Yeah, absolutely. And that ends up hurting the relationship. Yeah, absolutely. And I think in a relationship too, it's so important to grow together in compatible ways. And I think it's important to have adventures together and try new things together and, grow together, take those risks of vulnerability and connection, because connection is always a risk. Black Hats is saying nothing should make you feel more alive than going to a funeral. You always think, fuck, you guys start living while you're alive. Absolutely. Absolutely. And as you guys know, I had some deaths in my family a few years ago, and that was definitely eye-opening, and I think we can all probably relate to that and have known people who have died too young. And it does kind of make you think all we kind of have for guarantee is this exact moment. And so I think living in the moment is also really important. Which isn't to say that we shouldn't worry about the future or be aware of the future or build towards the future. I think we absolutely should be doing that. But there's a balance. There's a balance around moving towards a stable future, cultivating and building a stable future. But sometimes the best way to build a stable future is through taking a risk and running towards the danger, which sounds counterintuitive, but I really feel like that's the case. And yeah, I just think it's it kind of sounds contradictory. It kind of sounds like a strange juxtaposition, but I really feel like there is something to that, that sometimes true stability can only happen through taking a risk. Hello, Sekhmet. Oh, I just having the cats all up in my grill is making me realize I forgot to take my allergy medication this morning. It's going to be interesting. I've never taken my allergy eye drops with makeup on, so that is going to be an interesting experience. We'll see what happens. Will my mascara drip down my face? I don't know. We'll see. We will see. And Black Cats is saying, sorry for my losses. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's all good. Thank you. But I feel like we've all experienced loss. If you've lived long enough, you're going to have experienced loss in some way. We're all going to experience death in the family. We're all going to experience death of people that we went to school with or grew up with or whatever. And let's see, Black Cat's saying a lot of people around our ages want to or are settling down. You feel like you're headed in another direction. You don't want to settle down. You want to be free to run towards the dangerous. Absolutely. And it's interesting because I think for some people settling down is running towards what's dangerous, right? If someone, let's just as a silly example, if someone was complete, in their slut era and they were a fuckboy or whatever, settling down for that person is going to be running towards the dangerous. Right. And so this is, I think, important too. So thank you for bringing this up, Black Cats. So I think you're bringing me to an important point where what looks dangerous is different for everyone, and I've worked with some clients who have been in 10-year marriages, 20-year marriages, whatever, who now are, at those marriages ending. For them, running towards the dangerous is more about sexual exploration or sexual freedom or experimenting, with a more, I don't know how to call it, a more kind of sexually free lifestyle that is a bit more casual. And that for them is running towards a danger that they need to run to, and so I think the danger, what that is going to be different for everyone. It's going to depend on what the experience is and what's comfortable for that person. And then where is the growth area? It's going to be different for everyone. And let's see, Melissa says, might be an apprentice plumber, but you want to know what the lipstick is. Yeah, so this one is Beauty Bakery. The name of it, I think, is Molcherie. It's their kind of I don't know, their classic red. And what I love about this lipstick is it stays the fuck on, and so it doesn't smear on anything. It's pretty much kiss proof. It's my favorite lipstick, this brand. It's very good. I have all their reds, and I'm not making a new order yet because I need to use everything that I have. I just used their brights, Sakura pink, I think it might be called. I can't remember if it's called that or if it's called Take Me for Pomegranate. I don't know. But anyway, they're like my favorite lipstick company for sure. Yeah, it's a liquid lip and it just dries and it's just like there. So you're gonna need like an oil-based lipstick remover to take it off. It's like pretty hardy, but like it doesn't transfer. Like you can make out with someone and it will stay on your face pretty much. Let's see. Black Cats is saying danger can be fun, but it can also be dangerous. Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things too that I want to make sure I talk about is that, yeah, the danger isn't fake. It can be a real danger, but we can handle it. And I think a lot of people don't give themselves credit. And I think a lot of us are capable of more than we think we're capable of. And we can handle more danger and more risk and more exploration and experimentation than we think that we can. Like a lot of us think our threshold for like, I don't know, stuff is like low. But actually when we show up and like push comes to shove, we're really able to show up. Like we're able to do more. We're more capable than we think we are. And I think that is important. Like there's a silly trope. It's like you can do hard things. I think that's true. You know, we can do hard things. And I think why I like this idea of like running towards the danger is then our self-concept and our estimation of what we're capable of also increases, you know. And then what was dangerous previously becomes easy. And we then gain like self-esteem, self-confidence, all of that stuff. Like we get to see ourselves as capable rather than someone who doesn't have the talent, the guts, the wherewithal, the whatever to handle, tolerate, rise to this particular challenge. So it's just some stuff I'm thinking about. What the cat is chilling. You guys can look at the cat while I sip my water. Sekhmet has lost so much weight, you guys. He was very fat before. He is still very food motivated, but he is no longer pre-diabetic. So we love it. And Melissa says, yeah, lipstick looks so crisp. Thank you. Yeah, honestly, it's great. It's good. I've been using it for like maybe 5 years. Like, it is the holy grail of lipstick, honestly. It's so good. I do have a few from other companies that are more like normal lipstick, and it always fucking gets over everything. Like it transfers on everything. It never fucking, it's like, look like Ronald McDonald with other lipstick. So yeah, you guys, that's what I want to talk about today. Thank you, Awas. Running towards the danger, doing stuff that scares you. Because chances are, if it scares you, you probably want to do it. You know, chances are it scares you because you want to do it and you're afraid of fucking it up, looking stupid, or failing, or it not working out. And I don't know. I just think we all need to fucking live life and have experiences and try stuff and grow. And if we're not growing, we're probably dying. You know? And obviously, y'all know I do all the witchy things, and all of the witchy things are so much about growth and renewal and regeneration and death and rebirth and fucking growing, you know? Parts of us die so that other parts of us can live and grow. And I think that's really important. And it's always really clear to me when I meet people who are not in that process, because it just seems like they are in a death spiral of sadness and misery. And you can kind of see it in their energy. You can see it in their vibrancy. They're not very vibrant. They're like, I don't know. You can just feel the lack of vibes. It's a technical term, the lack of vibes. Yeah. Does anyone else have any thoughts on this? I think this is mainly my speech for today, you guys. If you've been enjoying this conversation, please hit the like button on the YouTube. So I think it helps other people. I don't know. It like shows up in the algorithm or something. I don't really know. Also, I want to tell you guys, Sunday service next week is going to be on Saturday for reasons I will not currently disclose. So I haven't decided what the topic will be yet, but I'm going to put it in I'm going to make a scheduled one, which I don't usually do. But I'll make a little scheduled one, and yeah. Does anyone else have any thoughts on this topic? Running towards the danger. I think it's an important one. Taking the risks of living an authentic, full, embodied life. You know, I think it's something that people used to do a lot more than they do now. I think a lot of people now are like sucked into the internet and would rather just live through the internet, you know, live vicariously through other people, through celebrities, through fucking memes and stupid shit. Like, who cares about any of that? You know, like, people need to attend to their own life. And I think chasing dopamine of following celebrities and like stupid shit online is this way to avoid living life. You know, this like tactile like life that you can touch and feel. And obviously I'm not like demonizing the internet. I love the internet. We're here together because of the internet, so I love that. But I think a lot of people avoid living life to just like live online, and I think that's weird. Melissa's saying, you sure feel alive and it feels right, and you believe that was way more common like 20 years ago. Yeah, I agree. And so I think we need to like return to this era of like living fucking life offline. Obviously, I think I'll always teach online. Like, I love it. It can be a source of connection, but I think a lot of people don't use online as connection. They use it as a passive, consumptive method of feeling something about other people because they don't feel anything about their own life, but they want to feel something, so they find content to consume to make them feel something, rather than wondering, why do I feel nothing about my own life? Why does my own life not fill me with inspiration? Why do I have to look at inspiration, you know, through other people only? And Black Cats is asking, do I have a PO box? I have a business address. Are you going to send me a present? I do have a business address. So if y'all want to send me presents, you absolutely can do so. Just don't send like anything illegal or dangerous or anything like that. Oh man. No illegal deliveries, please. We don't want to blow up the ladies at the office. But yeah, no, I think that people living life in a consumptive way, like they're not actually living their own life, they're just consuming other people's lives online, is like very strange. So let's not do that, you guys. Let's like live our own life and feel the feelings, even if it is difficult and challenging and brings us emotions. Yeah, it's important. Okay, y'all, my voice is dying. I need to go eat a snack. So if you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe to this channel. If you have not hit the like button yet, please hit the like button. And if you would like to suggest a topic of Sunday service, I'm definitely open for that. And again, Sunday service will be Saturday service next week. And also, I think I'm going to be doing the tarot for September also on the Saturday. So I think that's the 30th of August. We're doing things a little bit early next weekend. All right, y'all, that's it for me. I need to go take my allergy meds because I forgot, and the cats being up in my face is making my throat scratchy, so we need to take the allergy meds. And I'm going to continue on with my day. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope this has been interesting. Oh, hi, Sam. I'm so glad you enjoyed. And yeah, Black Cats, please like put a comment or something on this video when it posts, and let me know if you've got any ideas you would like to hear me babble about for a while. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. For those of you who are watching the replay and didn't catch the live, thank you so much for being here and sharing some of your day, night, morning, whatever happens to be with me. I appreciate all of y'all. And if anyone is looking for coaching or tarot readings or courses or would like any instruction on any of the things, please be in touch. I would love to hear from you. There's a little form on my website, sabrinamscott.com, and my email is ceo@sabrinamscott.com. Yes. Much love, my friends. This has been a great one. We've gone a lot longer than I thought we would, but I've been digging it. And I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Take care. Bye.